One of the worst parts of being an investor from the YC partner perspective is negotiating against founders and not being aligned with them. And so you never had to worry, oh, is Dalton screwing me? Did I get worse terms than the other people in the batch?
What prevents AI from replicating what you're building and selling it for a cheaper price?
It's harder for me to see that far future, so I don't know. But I think the signal in the short term is that Anthropic and OpenAI keep hiring humans. Founders would constantly ask me, they would say, Dalton, I want to raise a Series A, how do I not give a board seat? Dalton, how do I not give the lead more than 10%? I don't need all this extra money. And I would say as a YC partner, we're just like, hey,
you want to fund the smart guys.
This is what we learned at YC, right? The best investments we ever made were when the founders were much smarter than us, and they just told us the future. And during the batch, they could articulate the vision for how it would be bigger than everything. And they were right. And so all you had to do was listen. And raising a Series A 6 months later, especially from a traditional VC, not us, and selling 15 or 20%, I think that's, dare I say, dumb. Like that is extremely dilutive.
It's like, could be 20 plus 20. That's,
right?
40, yeah. In less than a year. So
in 6 months.
Yeah.
The key point we try to make is the ideas seem good. They don't seem bad. And it seems like no one else is doing it. And so therefore it's an opportunity because you're like, no one is doing X. It's an opportunity. Whereas the reason they're not doing it is not lack of attempts to do it. It's that it is impossible. Yeah. Someone will make it work, but I think it would be hard to build it if you don't have a really good distribution story.
Is this like sort of finding the next sucker to buy the business before it crumbles? Like, is this what we're all doing here?
No, I actually think the smartest move, if you had a time machine, would be to...
Welcome back to the Lobster Talks podcast, where usually I bring you the best YC founders, and today I bring you the person that coached them all. We are with Dalton Caldwell, partner emeritus at YC, and now running Standard Capital. We're going to get into that. And you've worked with more than 1,000 YC founders, so I'm very excited to have so much stuff to talk about. Welcome to the show.
Great. Thank you so much for having me.
All right, let's dive in. So you were at YC for 12 years, worked with thousands of startups, dozens of unicorns. Just incredible. You decided to leave YC last year, and now you're running with Paul Buchheit and another partner. You're running Standard Capital, a Series A firm for the best YC companies, for the best Series A companies. Just for those who don't know, for the rare, tell us what Standard Capital is.
Yeah, I think you can kind of think of it as YC for Series A. For context, my co-founder, Paul, was the first YC partner basically brought on by PG way back in the day, I believe is the story. And before he worked at YC, he was one of the first demo day angels. And so PB, my co-founder, went to the second ever demo day, and I think there were like 3 or 4 investors there. And I think he was the most prolific demo day investor.
3 investors
in the first, yeah, something like that for the first few batches. So he he invested in Stripe. He invested in like all the really, really early batches. Amazing. And so it made sense when PG and Jessica decided to bring on some folks, they brought on PB just because they knew him from demo day. And for me, when I first started as a YC partner, I always was working with PB and we would sit in interviews together. And so maybe one other aside, the cool thing that PB invented is group office hours, which as you know, for many YC alumni, that's a key part of the program. I would argue that's about a third.
So important.
That was something that PB actually cooked up, I think in 2012, that was not part of the original YC product that Paul Graham made. Does that make sense? Like,
it's crazy.
Like YC's always adding new features. Yeah. And so group office hours was one of the best, I guess, additions to the core product. And PB cooked it up. Yeah.
And he created Gmail for those who don't know.
Yeah. There's more to
for that as well.
So he was employee 23 at Google. He created Gmail. He coined the phrase, "Don't be evil." Yeah. He started a friend feed. His co-founder was Brett Taylor, who is like the chairman of OpenAI now. So anyway, he's had a great career. And I always was just excited that I got to work with him, honestly. Like, he's a really cool guy. And so that was one of the exciting parts of being a YC partner for me, was getting to work with PB. And so where I'm going with this is we kind of saw YC from the beginning and have our own contributions to YC that we're proud of. And we felt that there was room in the market to create a YC-like experience through a lot of different lenses for the next round. Yeah. And the reason this is important is, as a YC partner, one of the key parts of my job was to helping my best companies graduate to the Series A. That makes sense. Like this. So I spent many, many, many years thinking about this.
Exactly this. Yeah.
And also when I was a founder, I had 2 companies and I raised the Series A for both of those. And it was always surprising to me how little the product changed from what I remembered as a founder. And so seed fundraising, YC completely revolutionized. YC created the safe. It's amazing. Like all this innovation on the seed front.
Demo day, YC launch.
Super cool, right?
All those things.
Love it. Yeah. Hadn't seen as much change in the Series A market. And we thought there was an opportunity to create something that would be very familiar to any YC company or any YC alum, where they kind of intuitively understand what it is, right? And so what that means is there's an application process, no warm intros, no coffee meetings. It means there's standardized docs. We just publish the docs on our website, just like the YC Safe, so you can see what the deal is.
This is the only Series A firm doing that.
Literally, we're the only people doing that. So yeah, you can just go on our website and see the docs. Go for it. Yeah. We have a super streamlined decision-making process. So YC, we always prided ourselves of making fast decisions after a 10-minute interview. Yeah. Similarly with Standard, we get to a yes after 2 meetings. Yeah. And so if you think about the amount of time it takes to fill out an application, say it's a couple hours, then you do 1 interview, which is half an hour, and then a second interview that's half an hour. That's it, and you can get a yes.
For a much bigger check than you can raise 10 million.
There's not a lot of things like that, right? That's an extremely differentiated value prop. And then what we think is the most important part is to not take a board seat and instead bring founders into a peer group modeled on group office hours, which again, I was mentioning PB created. Yeah. And the idea is founders would constantly ask me, they would say, Dalton, I want to raise a Series A. How do I not give a board seat? Dalton, how do I not give the lead more than 10%? I don't need all this extra money. And I would say, as a YC partner, you can't. I'd be like, that's not an option. I know you want that, but there's just no one that's going to give you that deal. And so we kind of like just have a pretty good idea what my customers want because they ask me for it. Yeah. And so you don't give up a board seat. And then you come to these once a quarter, we call them peer board meetings. And so you're in a group with 5 or 6 other companies. They're all also post-PMF, Series A stage companies. And it feels a lot like group office hours. And the idea is who has better advice on how to run a fast-growing AI company than another founder of a fast-growing AI company? That makes sense. Like what investors do is they just kind of like sit in other board meetings and then regurgitate what they hear in other board meetings. We're kind of cutting out the middleman. Yeah. Does that make sense? Like we're just letting the founders talk to each other directly. And again, this is part of the magic of YC is how special it is to have peers that you truly respect. Yeah. We just like the idea of that being what we think is just the best way for post-PMF founders to support each other. Does that make sense? So we're actually just trying to innovate on this. And remember, when YC started, every seed investor took a board seat. And it was Paul Graham who really popularized the idea that you could invest in companies without taking a board seat. And again, this is one of the vectors by which people ridiculed YC. Is like, how? You're never going to make any money. You're just spraying money around and you're not, getting control of the companies to manage the founders. And again, PG just thought differently. So innovative, right? And so we believe the same thing. The best founders don't need us to boss them around and all that stuff. That's just completely unnecessary. So that's in a nutshell what Standard is. We started it last summer. Fund 1 was $425 million.
Impressive.
We've led 23 Series A so far. I believe 12 or 13 at the time of us recording this have been announced and are on our website. And so, yeah.
Many are still confidential.
Yeah, exactly.
You know what? It's so fascinating to me. What I would sort of compare it to is there's sort of this bubble when you're in YC where, and PG probably was the first one to say, hey, let us respect the founder, be on the side of the founder. Let us not, push the founders around, ask for board seat, etc. And then when you graduate YC and you go raise a Series A, basically party's over. You come back to the real world, however bad that may be. So your idea is, hey, let's keep the party going for another round. Let's keep the bubble because you actually know that this is what founders want, and this is actually giving, like this is proving, giving great results.
YC culture is so strong.
Yeah.
That's what makes it special, again, in my opinion, having worked there so long. And the culture is, if you're a YC alum, you would prefer to buy a product from another YC company. You're going to try to help another YC company. Yeah. You'd prefer to work with investors that are part of YC. Like, to the extent you can just live within people that share your values and culture, you should.
And you will.
And I would advise that as a YC partner. If they had a choice between different investors, I'd be like, go with the people that are part of the culture.
So without you even asking, probably every other YC partner is already recommending you because they know you're from the family.
Yeah, I mean, again, that's what PG says is in a PG way. He's like, he can't imagine why anyone would not want to raise from us. Does that make sense? Because he's like, because you guys are YC partners. Yeah. Like it's self-evident to PG why this makes sense.
Do you think there's room for someone to do this at Series B, at Series C? Like it could go up until IPO, right?
Yeah, certainly. I can imagine maybe we do that someday. But in general, I think that there are a number of investors who are YC alum that I think very highly of, and because they all have the same, worldview and morality of how founders should be treated and how companies should be treated and how companies should be run, I think it's awesome. And when you think about it, something that I know PG is super proud of, we've talked about it, is how there's a number of YC companies in the S&P 500.
Yeah. And
so I believe we've got, let's see.
There's at least
DoorDash.
Airbnb and DoorDash.
And Airbnb, and I believe Reddit just got added last week to the S&P 500. Wow. And so he's like, 3 down, 497 to go.
Yeah.
And so
you have more coming. Stripe could be in there.
OpenAI, 100%
OpenAI,
will be in the S&P 500.
Yeah.
And so again, the idea is there's no reason the YC culture and values can't scale all the way to the S&P 500. Does that make sense? And so the trailblazers had to do it the hard way, but I think, folks doing like the kind of stuff we're doing will just help enable that pipeline from people doing the batches all the way to being in the S&P 500, and it's just going to work. Yeah. So that's awesome. That's the vision, right?
On standard, it makes a lot of sense given everything you explain in your background. Hey, we're going to do standard terms. Yep. We're not going to take board seat. We're going to be on the side of the founder. There's one thing, and we're going to do an application process. We're going to move fast. Amazing for founders. There's one thing I wanted to ask you about, which I think you probably didn't have to do, but you did anyway. Yeah. And it is also new and surprising and does not exist, which is your asking founders to name their valuation. And so you will take 10%. You mentioned founders don't want to give up more than 10%.
Correct.
So you will take 10%, but they name the valuation. So if they want 10 million from you, it's got to be 100 million valuation, but you let them choose. If it's 8 at 80 or 6 at 60, you don't care, sort of, as long as you like the company for that price, but you let them choose. Why is that? It is super interesting. You're the only one doing that. Correct. I wonder if it spreads or if it's only you. What's the thinking behind that?
Yeah, a couple of things there. And again, PB really helped craft this. He's such a brilliant guy. Again, think about the kind of products he's created over the years, right? They, believe it or not, at FriendFeed, they invented the like button. You can Google this. Yeah, they invented the like button. So anyway, he's a very creative guy. Here's the thinking. One of the worst parts of being an investor from the YC partner perspective is negotiating against founders and not being aligned with them. And one of the things I loved of the 1,000 or so YC companies that we accepted was that it was a standard deal. And I never negotiated with founders. It was like, this is the deal.
Take it or leave it.
If you want to do YC, it's the deal. And I could give founders my word that everyone else got the same deal. And so you never had to worry, is Dalton screwing me? Did I get worse terms than the other people in the batch? No, I was just consistent. And it really made my job more enjoyable, that I didn't feel like being an investor meant trying to gouge people and trying to just see what I could get. Okay? Yeah. And then from the perspective of founders, again, I would advise them on raising Series A's. The advice that I would give founders is something like, make up a number.
Yeah.
Then they're going to counter, and then you're going to make up stories to try to meet somewhere in the middle. Yeah. And it's basically going to make you not like the person. Like it's going to feel gnarly. Like it's going to feel like you're going to a swap meet and you're like bartering over the price of,
which is your life's work.
And so I just, again, as a founder, I do not enjoy negotiating against investors. And there's a lot of investors that are notoriously aggressive on this front and will like drop their price. I don't know, you saw the thing where I think it was Travis from Uber was saying that they had a deal with Andreessen, and then Andreessen halved the price right before closing. And that was like a nightmare, and he didn't end up working with them. So again, where I'm going with this is just our thought experiment is, what if we just don't what if we can just avoid all of that, okay? And the way this applies to YC culture is the following. We learned through trial and error to teach the founders to, when you're raising at demo day, you state your cap, like what valuation cap you're raising at and how much money you're raising, and then people are in or out. And so in our little YC ecosystem that I know you're a part of, it would be hugely insulting to a founder to try to be like, how about half of your cap, right? Like you get...
Never happen.
Again, you know you're part of the ecosystem. So we created this like nice little marketplace where it is understood by all parties that the price is the price. You're either in or out of the price, and it's up to the founder to choose the price that works for them versus trying to run like this like awkward auction. And this is how Demo Day works, as you know. And Demo Day works, man. Like it's a really effective machine. And so if you are a YC founder and your only experience with raising money is applying to YC and raising at Demo Day, I would argue our process is actually 100% intuitive. That's the only way they know how to raise versus this whole, let me just like make up a number and like, let's have a complicated back and forth.
And it creates all those weird incentives, right? Because you're thinking, oh, I negotiated down. What if I go to another firm and they give me a better term, whatever? It's such a waste of time.
It's incredibly time intensive. And again, there's a mismatch where an investor who is a professional that negotiates against founders all the time is going to be a better negotiator than a founder.
He does it once.
And so the whole thing is set up to be painful. And we just like, let's just not do that. Does that make sense? So again, we designed it this way to just avoid that entire waste of time. And there are founders who I think would love the idea of going to a swap meet and negotiating with investors and trying to like play games.
Haggle,
I don't think we're the best fit for those founders. Like that.
Super interesting. I did want to ask you, but I guess I'm guessing your answer is no, we don't do that. But if there is a company that you love, but they stated a crazy price, I'm like, hey, let's see if Standard Cap would go for that. So it's like way out there.
We do give feedback, and what we do is ask them to consider changing their price. So rather than going in a back and forth, let's go to the swap meet. It's more like, hey, we're not sure this is the right price.
We like everything else.
Can you think about it and just come back and see if you have any other ideas? And again, the idea is I still want the founder to have agency to feel like it was their decision and not that I'm trying to like, again, you know what I would compare it to? I don't know if you've ever bought a car, but buying a car is not great. And again, not everyone is like this, but the way I am and the way PB is, and the way I think a lot of like computer nerds are, is negotiating with a car dealer is one of the most unpleasant things in life.
Doesn't feel good.
It's corny, right? Like it's just gross. Versus if you just go buy a Tesla, you go to the app and you're like, okay, here's the Tesla. You hit the buy button and you got a car.
That's it, man.
I love it. And so again, I think we're trying to design a product for who we think our core demographic is, which is the kind of person that does not enjoy negotiating with car dealers. Right?
And again, you know them, you've worked with thousands of them. So it's,
and so again, some people love negotiating, but man, I don't think most people do.
Awesome. All right. No, that's great. This is an amazing view on Standard. I want to move on to talking about AI. I guess this is what all of us just talk about all day ever now. You're investing heavily in AI. You're using AI. I first want to I want to cite something that's on your application. I went through the application for Standard, and you have this question, which I want to hear your thoughts on, because it's the question for probably any company ever. What prevents AI from replicating what you're building and selling it for a cheaper price? It used to be what prevents Zuck from copying your product. Now it's AI from. So how do you think about this? I believe you've also had discussions with people saying, "Will AI kill all startups?"
Yeah.
So what's the thought process around this when you see a company applying?
So I think it's good thinking a few years ahead of what the state of the art is. And, just as an aside, OpenAI started as part of YC. It started as a nonprofit. And it was when Sam was running YC, we started this little nonprofit, and that's literally how it started. And so even back then, 10 years ago, Sam was talking about the ramifications of how AI is going to change startups and how it's going to change society. And so, we've been thinking about this for a while, and we do think it's inevitable that LLMs can clone any piece of software increasingly fast, increasingly cheap. And it's just like a fact.
Yeah.
I don't know how you could take the other side of that bet.
It's already almost there today.
Yeah. And the moat of a lot of traditional SaaS was that it was expensive or hard to build.
Yeah, exactly.
And I'm arguing that I think that moat is gone. A lot of people think this. We didn't invent this way of thinking.
Absolutely.
And so if the moat is, oh man, we made this website and it was really hard to build, and so therefore people are going to pay us for it. Unfortunately, that seems like it's rendered moot. And again, I would compare it to the music industry before digital music, where you had to buy the CD to get the music, and then Napster came out, and then it was just over.
That's it.
Digital music completely broke the business model of the legacy music industry. Yeah. And so I think, coding agents break the business model of a lot of SaaS businesses. So it's game over. And so what we're looking for is businesses where the founders are like, yep, you could clone our product and we still got a business. And different people have different answers to that. The most obvious sort of answer is marketplaces.
Yeah.
An AI agent, you could tell it to go clone Airbnb.com today. That's useless, right? Okay, I have a clone of Airbnb.com, but there's nothing on.
Marketplaces are obvious. Uber, you need the drivers and the right. So, okay.
Right? And there's a lot of marketplaces out there. So I would argue a whole number of companies have marketplace-like properties. And so any kind of network effects would solve that. And again, we're not looking for us to tell the founder the answer. We want them to impress us. Yeah. This is why it's on the application, is we're looking for answers that are wow, that's a really good answer. We never thought of it that way before. Does that make sense?
It does. Do you have other examples to share, either from the portfolio or maybe even from what you would love to fund? Because again, I always, same as you, I always default to the marketplace idea because it's humans to humans. But there's an infinite number of businesses that are not marketplaces.
Data network effects certainly applies. Economies of scale certainly apply. Meaning it only makes sense to run the business if you own the entire thing, or you're running at such a large scale. Subscale, it'll never work. Trying to think of some good examples. Hard tech has decent answers to this because you can't really clone that stuff. And so sometimes people will have a hardware component or a hard tech component. That's an answer. And again, the point is not, we're smart guys and we have all the answers. We're just hey.
You want to fund the smart guys.
This is what we learned at YC, right? The best investments we ever made were when the founders were much smarter than us, and they just told us the future. Yeah. When DoorDash was in the batch, I did office hours with them, and PB's the partner that interviewed DoorDash and picked them.
Wow.
And during the batch, they could articulate the vision for how it would be bigger than everything. And that they would start city by city in the suburbs. They would start with just food, but then they were going to diversify into other types of items, and it would eventually go global. Wow. And so during the batch,
that's crazy, yeah.
They could explain the vision of DoorDash, and they were right. And so all you had to do was listen.
Yeah.
And as an investor, I just had to listen.
Get out of the way, right?
I didn't need any ideas. I just was wow, okay, guys, go for it. And so again, that's the kind of founder we're looking for, is when we ask these questions, we don't want them to just imagine what they think we want to hear and regurgitate that back. We're looking for truly good answers.
Yeah, that's awesome. I love that.
Actually, maybe one minor application tip for anyone watching this is probably don't ask your LLM to answer this question. that's less likely to be a unique answer.
Yeah. By the way, I think you saw the study. YC applications now are 25% longer than before.
For sure.
They use the word whatever wedge. Like
Yeah.
It explodes. So
We were seeing this again. The last time I was working in batch was, I guess, like a year ago, and yeah, it was clear this was coming. And
is this a net negative?
it's one of those things where I feel like sometimes applicants feel like they are getting an edge and it's a cool hack when they're actually self-owning and it's hurting them. And so I don't know if I would call it net negative or not, but I would call it a data point that I would use as a YC founder, that someone is not very serious about their startup, or that they're kind of like willing to waste my time if they submit slop in their application.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? Like it's a signal, right? It's data.
Sounds pretty negative.
Well,
I mean, I guess if it's used really well, it could be good.
that's what I'm saying. Like, I'm not going to say every application with AI is bad. It's signal.
Yeah.
And if I'm reading an application, I'm trying to evaluate how special the person is or how special their effort is. It's a data point.
Is it still all reviewed by humans internally? Can you share that? I don't know if it's...
Well, again, I'm not going to
yeah.
we had a super sophisticated way to do it. And, I'm feeling very good about the amount of human attention that went to everything. And again, think of the best uses of AI as human augmentation rather than replacement.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right? That's why you're still see humans doing the interviews. That's why we're still, again, why is Standard Cap working the way it works? I mean, we have humans in there, even though we're using AI for everything.
Are you applying to Y Combinator? Before you hit submit on your application, you need to hear this. The acceptance rate is under 1%, and most founders get rejected without ever knowing what went wrong. That's why we built YC Roaster, a completely free tool where you submit your application and get brutally honest feedback from a real YC alumni. AI screens it first, then actual founders who've been through the program tell you exactly what to fix. No cost, no catch, it's completely free, just a better application for you. Go to ycroaster.com before the next deadline, link in the description.
Do you think... I recently invested in the very first YC-backed AI founder. So do you think companies in the future are still mostly created by humans, or do you think YC Batch in 2035 is a bunch of humans and a bunch of AI founders building next to each other?
It's harder for me to see that far future, so I don't know. But I think the signal in the short term, though we are not there yet, is that Anthropic and OpenAI keep hiring humans. Like, I think the canary in the coal mine that is happening is when you start seeing the headcount drop at those places.
Wow.
And the reason I don't think that is happening is the incremental value by adding a human offsets their compensation. Right?
Especially if they're augmented by AI.
Right? Yeah. And so, man, it seems like Anthropic's hiring a lot of people and OpenAI is hiring a lot of people. And so if they're doing that, why shouldn't you, startup founder?
Yeah.
Does that make sense? So again, maybe I'm missing something, but I think if all of a sudden, what is it from Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory, that they close the doors and no one goes in or out anymore? I think if all of a sudden no one gets hired at Anthropic anymore, that might be a sign.
Do you think...
I don't think that's imminent. We'll see, but I don't get the sense that's imminent.
Do you think you don't think that's imminent? Do you think there's a path? Maybe it doesn't, maybe it never ends up happening, but do you think there's a path where it ends up happening that Anthropic runs with, 100 people?
I would be surprised. Again, I never want to be skeptical of technology, right? I always be on the wrong side. I just think it feels far enough in the future, 10 years out or something, that I don't know. I still think even with self-improving AI, even with AI-enabled researchers and all this good stuff, that's definitely coming, 100%.
Still needs...
the incremental value of a human is still there. Yeah. It's still positive ROI.
Especially if you're Anthropic or OpenAI, you can hire extremely talented people with lots of agency. And you lost a YC partner to Anthropic recently, Tom. Yeah. Mm-hmm. A temporary pause. So hopefully we'll have him back at YC soon. Yeah. We lost you. We lost Tom. It's so sad. Anyway, it's all for great. I want to move on to another thing. So the questions that everyone is wondering about are the one that I ask you, which is, how do we keep AI from just replicating it?
Yep.
There's this other question that I always get as an investor. Maybe you get it as well from your LPs. I get it from some of my LPs, which is there's this it's so easy now with an AI product to get early traction. There's so many companies that get from 0 to 1 million, or even a 0 to 5 or 10 million in a couple of months, sometimes in a couple of weeks, which is great. Speed is of the essence, so we both love that. But there's also sometimes a lot of people just trying the tool and then it goes to 0. And it's especially, it's acute for me because I don't want companies to, arrive at demo day, do 3 million and then drop to 0.
Yeah.
But it's the same for you. Going from 0 to 3, 5 million would potentially be exactly the time where you would raise a Series A from standard.
Yeah.
And you don't want the company to, you put in 10 million and it goes to 0. So how do you detect that? How do you try to fight that? Is this gonna... And so that's the first question. The second is this something that's here to stay? Are we going to see like flash in the pans that go up and down super quickly, or is it just happening right now?
Well, I think to start with, this is not new.
Okay.
We don't need to talk about the .com era because I was pretty young then, but I definitely remember in the 2000s and in the 2010s as a YC partner, there was a very common playbook where a company would raise money, spend a lot of money on ads, and build a huge user base. And then the minute you turned off the ads, the company would evaporate. And so we saw tons of these. And again, this happened to YC. This was a very common playbook over and over and over again. And so again, as an investor, I think I just learned this is part of the game. And I think the other thing that is surprising is that this can happen at basically every stage.
Really?
Oh yeah. I mean, who would have thought that OpenAI versus Anthropic, that it'd be playing out the way it is currently playing out? Who would have thought that Amazon's web services business would be bigger than their e-commerce business? Who would have thought? Again, I could just list these all day, but the point is, things are never as rock solid as they might seem. And we're all looking for a rock solid, sure thing at every stage we're investing at. But there's lots and lots of disconfirming information. So again, like, I'm agreeing with you that there's certainly flash in the pan type things that could take off now, but it doesn't feel to me like it's a higher percentage of the time than 10 years ago with viral social apps or free video. Again, I was YC partner for a long time and I was a founder for a long time. I mean,
you've seen it.
A huge part of the VC industry was like Facebook apps for a while.
Yeah.
Remember? Again, I don't know if you remember, but
I do.
That was like a huge space. And like, when's the last time anyone's talked about a Facebook app or funded a Facebook app?
Yeah.
Right? And so I feel like this is all part of the same thing, which is where is the enduring value being created versus...
That was my next question. What do you have elements now, having done YC for 12 years? Like, what is enduring then?
I think that the recurring theme is the most enduring value is that you can durably help customers and give them more value than you are taking and do it like forever, right? Versus if you're subsidizing it, like, oh, let's spam a bunch of ads, but our retention sucks. Nothing good will come of that story. Do you get what I'm saying? And so the way you will really know, and again, as an investor, it's hard to figure this out, but the way a founder would know if they're a flash in the pan or not is by being honest with how much true residual value they are delivering their customers. And if the amount of money that they are charging those customers is a tiny fraction of the value those customers are getting from the product. Does this make sense? Because if you're doing that, you're not going anywhere, man. Like, you're here to stay.
Do you think NPS and cohort retention are
I think
tools?
those are great.
Yeah.
I would think of them as angles to look at the business. I don't think they're the end all be all, but for sure, if your retention is bad, you are not creating value. Like, duh. If you look at your revenue retention, same thing. And so I would just be really honest with yourself as a founder about all those things. And if you see data that doesn't look great, I would prioritize thinking about it and not putting it to the side, because that's how you do see the flameouts, is that there's usually signals in the metrics, but the founders feel like, we'll fix it later. Oh, well, we're going to hire some people. We have a retention issue. We're going to fix that.
Don't fill a leaky bucket, right?
Yes, that's exactly right. And so, yeah, man, like, I think that's that's the issue. But, I guess my closing thought on this point is it's a topsy-turvy world, and that no matter how big you get, you don't really become undisruptible. Like there's always
Yeah, Nokia was like on top of the world for 10
Right?
years, and then where's Nokia today? I mean,
BlackBerry, and we could sit here and come up with these examples all day long. And so,
in the end, do you think the job of an investor is sort of, I say it probably in a very wrong way, so neither of us would say this is what we do, but is this like sort of finding the next sucker to buy the business before it crumbles? Like, is this what we're all doing here?
no, I actually think the smartest move, if you had a time machine, would be to go and invest in the best businesses and never sell.
Yeah.
Like if you could have invested in the Google IPO,
Or Amazon.
don't sell a share. This is Stripe. They're still not public. If you can invest in Stripe, just hold on.
Never sell. Yeah.
Never sell. I mean, that's what Warren Buffett did. Again, I don't want to. That's all outside my zone of expertise. But the key thing is to just not sell.
Yeah.
And if you're in the right businesses, it is mind-boggling how big they can be, and then never stop.
Bigger than you ever thought.
Right?
How do you, so my LPs breathe down my neck always. Maybe this, anyway, it is interesting. My LPs breathe down my neck. Hey, we want liquidity. We don't want to wait for 10, 15 years.
Yeah.
What do you tell them? I'm sure they tell you the same thing. You have LPs. Do you not do secondaries because you should hold forever? Or?
Yeah, I think it depends on the product that you're selling LPs. And I think a lot of LPs will subscribe to the never sell thing, because when someone goes public, what was cool, I was a YC partner long enough that lots of companies went public.
That's really cool.
You just deliver the shares to them, and then they make their own decision on whether to sell them or not.
Yeah.
And so there's like DoorDash, I got DoorDash shares from the batch that I worked.
Wow.
And I sold some of them, but I still have a lot of them.
Nice.
All these, and what has it been? Like 13 years later, and I'm going to hold them for a really long time because I believe in that company.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? So I do think there is a way to be an investor and to be aligned with your LPs. And, there are cases where you're like, yeah, we should probably sell these shares. But for the highest quality outlier winners, right? This is all a power law.
Yeah.
For the top of the power law,
You should
kind of just want to keep
the way.
riding it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Insane. I want to ask you more about those DoorDash shares after we finish taping. We're almost out of time, but I want to ask you about an experiment that you ran, which I thought was super interesting. You wrote, I don't know if it's end of 25, probably early 26, an essay and some post inviting YC startups from the current batch and future batches to apply to standard capital Series A during or at demo day.
Yep.
So we've all seen the level at demo day and the revenue that some startups reach at demo day increase drastically with AI and other and probably the quality of founders that make it to YC. Do you think this is a structural change? Do you think more and more companies could raise a Series A at demo day?
Yeah.
Is this a good thing for you? What happened with this experiment? Just tell us more.
So let's start with my perspective as a YC partner. So this is a nuanced point, but the nuance is there are some companies where the stars align, where it does seem smart to raise an A at demo day. And the historical examples are Scale AI did this. I worked that batch, and they raised a Series A demo day, so that was pretty good. Logora, I worked that batch. I was in their group office hours, and they raised Series A at demo day.
Nice.
That was a good one.
Yeah.
And then there was a few where the Series A came within 6 months of demo day. And so I would definitely put DoorDash in that category. My recollection is they did their A within 6 months, so very quick.
Yeah.
And the nuance that I would say here is I'm not sure it's just who has the most revenue, because there are companies in the batches with very large headline revenue numbers where I'm not actually sure they have PMF, and they might be better served to raise around. Again, it's up to their YC partner, not me, just some guy on a podcast at this point. But again, the advice I would give my founders would be like, let's have a really nuanced discussion of what your signals of PMF are, what your use of capital is, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Because again, there's lots of companies that are extremely they don't have PMF, but they have a lot of revenue. And I'm like, I don't know if I would start getting on the Series A treadmill. I think you may need to go let this bake a little bit more.
Super interesting. It means that too much money too quickly is a bad thing. for them.
And then you get on the treadmill where, again, especially if it's not us, now you got a board member. And they thought, you said you were ready for a Series A. Oh, your growth slowed down. Well, like basically
and then you're dead, right?
Yeah, then they're going to be hard on you, man. Like, like basically you need to make sure you're ready for that. Again, we're not on your board, so you don't have to worry about this with us. But for most folks, you kind of want to be super confident that you figured it out and not be like, we're going to need to go off in the wilderness for 2 years and figure out our business after you've raised from a VC, because they'll be hard on you. And I'm not sure, anyway, I know some bad stories about that stuff. Like they're going to push you in a lot of ways you may not want to be pushed versus just like a normal demo day round. Yeah, you're not going to have that issue.
Super interesting.
So it's a nuanced point.
Yeah.
But in general, I do think from a pure dilution perspective, raising a large/bloated seed round and then raising a Series A 6 months later, especially from a traditional VC, not us, and selling 15 or 20%, I think that's, dare I say, dumb. Like that is extremely dilutive.
It's like, could be 20 plus 20. That's,
right?
40, yeah. In less than a year. So
in 6 months.
Yeah.
And so I just think that's something to look at. And in terms of trends or what I think the future looks like, I think that there are businesses that might be served raising less at demo day if you think you have PMF to just like keep your dilution low. And then if you think you can do your A quickly, great, do your A and minimize dilution there. I mean, if you think about it, we had a company that we invested in basically at demo day. And we did 10% and they added some other angels. And so they did their entire seed round plus their Series A and they took about 15% dilution. Do you see how they're just going to own more of their company?
Yeah. Great for them.
Great for them. Again, not for everyone, but
great for you too.
Great for us, great for them. Like it's really great. And I just think that's a much more sophisticated way to think about dilution than like, hey, let's go raise $8 million on a 40 cap or whatever people are doing these days. And then in 6 months, let's go raise an A. Again, my YC partner brain is just like, oh my God, what are you doing?
Yeah.
So again, what I'm saying is a bit nuanced. I hope it translates in this format, but that's how I think about it. And different businesses have different capital needs. And so you just have to be sophisticated as a founder to just understand the most optimal way to finance your company using the tools of Demo Day and Series A investors to find the right answer.
I see founders struggling with this at Demo Day. Hey, should we take more? But it's more dilution. From what I've seen, it's hard to turn down.
That is correct.
Sort of almost free money. At Demo Days, I tell them there's a very unique moment in time where money just comes at you.
That's correct.
And so it's hard to turn down. They are conscious about dilution. They often end up raising the cap, but it's maybe not as high as it could be with the Series A. So
and again, I don't think I have all the answers. Again, this is my point that I learned as a partner is really try to give bespoke advice to every company about this versus just getting up in front of the batch. Everyone should do your Demo Day fundraise this way. I think that's bad advice. And so I would always just try to go the extra mile to give bespoke advice to every company. So they felt like, oh, I see why this is the right move for my business in particular.
For me right now.
Exactly.
Do you think it becomes a standard offer? Like is it going to stay on the table from standard capital?
Oh, for sure. Yeah, they can apply. Like we have open applications, we consider them, we do them. They're still pretty rare. And the main reason is just proofs of PMF. Like it's just unusual to have strong proofs of PMF versus lots of people have the hockey stick. I love the hockey stick, but
it's not always.
I'm not sure that alone.
Sufficient proof.
Yeah, and I'm not actually sure it's the same thing. Like there's companies that I would argue could have stronger PMF signals and less of a hockey stick. And the nuances to look at the sales cycle, look at the quality of retention. I'm kind of making a nuanced point here, but I don't think it's like, oh, hockey stick means Series A. I think it's a little more complicated than that.
We actually talked. We won't name them. We talked about one specifically that I think fits exactly this. It's interesting. All right. Last question. You can do this one fast if you want, if you can. You're famous for talking a lot with Michael, which we salute. Hi, Michael, on Tarpit Ideas. And I think the first Tarpit video is already close to 10 years old or something. And so they're fake good ideas. Everyone is doing them. Like, oh, let's do an app to order your beer at the bar. Everyone has this idea when they're 18, and it actually never works. And this is sort of you're famous for that. I wanted an updated version, if you can. What are maybe the most? You have tons of founders. What's the Tarpit idea of the AI era that people are building today that you think they should just do something else because you've already seen it 20 times?
Yeah, I mean. Again, just to recap quickly on Tarpits, the key point we try to make is the ideas seem good. They don't seem bad, and it seems like no one else is doing it. And therefore it's an opportunity because you're like, no one is doing X. It's an opportunity. Whereas the reason they're not doing it is not lack of attempts to do it, it's that it is impossible. Yeah. So that's why it's a tar pit, is it looks open, you crawl into the tar pit, and then you're stuck. That's the metaphor, okay? Yeah. And so, and again, I'm guilty. I did that too. Like everyone does it. So it's not pejorative. Like if you're working on a tar pit idea, you're dumb. It's kind of like, well, this is a deceptive, you've accidentally fallen into a trap, which is it seems obvious, it seems good, it seems like no one else is doing it, therefore I should do it. That's a tar pit, okay? And the canonical old one is building apps to find out what your friends are doing so you can coordinate to hang out with your friends. Everyone started that company. Because it's actually a good idea. It is cool to hang out with your friends. And it is hard to coordinate with your friends. Like the setup actually makes a ton of sense. It just so happens that everyone has tried to build that app and there's structural reasons it's hard. I think to try to directly answer your question, the most common Tarpity-esque ideas I would see is kind of generic claw type stuff where it's like OpenClaw, but subtly different. And we're going to do it. I don't know. And again, someone will make it work, but I think it would be hard to build it if you don't have a really good distribution story.
Yep.
And probably those products, you're going to be competing with OpenAI and Anthropic and Google directly. And so again, I'm not saying don't try those, but man, there are a lot of people building claw type things. I think on the B2B side, just like workflow, orchestration, automation things. Yeah. A lot of those, some of them are going to work. But if you're like, wow, no one has thought of doing a workflow automation for dentists or whatever, I think people have tried that one. And so, again, I'm not saying no one will succeed in those, but that is a very common set of ideas. Yeah.
Interesting.
And then what else?
We see the same things.
Yeah, I'm just saying there's a lot, if you're a founder, you should at least do research and be like, what are the other offerings in the space? And feel like you have a really good answer on why you will win, hopefully backed by proof, as opposed to, oh no, we're just like the 5,000th company doing.
So OpenClaw for business, OpenClaw in your essence.
Yeah, and again, someone is going to make that work, but
But it most likely will be Anthropic. So.
Well, and if you're a founder, if you're in that type of space, the bar is higher. Yeah. Versus if you're, the space hotels company,
He was here.
It may not work, but
at least
it's a different. It's probably not a tar pit. I don't think everyone's like, man, I'm going to start a space hotel company. Does that make sense?
Yeah,
that's. You have your own set of challenges, but it's not that everyone is trying to start the same company.
Yeah.
Right.
Super cool. Awesome. All right. Before we end, thank you so much for being here. That was awesome.
Thanks for having me.
If you've enjoyed this, there's 2 YouTube channels you should subscribe to. So there's 2 channels. There's one for Standard Cap.
Yes.
Where you have founders and you're talking with PB and stuff like that. It's fascinating. But there's also a separate Dalton and Michael channel, which revives the old school. The first videos were on the YC YouTube channel.
Yep.
And now there's new ones. It's every week, right?
Yeah, we just got to weekly posting.
Every week there's a new Dalton and Michael. And the channel is still relatively new. So, lots of people are not subscribed. So go and subscribe. We'll link in the description as well. Thank you so much. And then it's standardcap.com.
You got it.
Standardcap.com. Go apply if you think you have PMF. And thank you again.
Thanks so much for having me.
All right.